My name's Chip Tuttle. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at Suffolk Downs. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. I'll tell you a little bit about where we are in the process as we seek to earn a commercial gaming license here in the eastern region of Massachusetts. Let me start. I want to recognize a few people in the audience. From Revere, the city's Economic Development Director, John Festa, is here. John, and I believe we saw school committee member Stacy Bronson Rizzo in the audience. If Stacy's here, thank you for joining us. Nick Bua from the Revere Veterans Affairs Committee. Janet Knott. Janet, thank you, representing City Councilor Sal Lamatina's office. Thank you, Janet. Diane Modica from the East Boston Chamber of Commerce. We have a very special guest here, a surprise appearance by our own principal owner, Richard Fields. Richard, say hello. Thanks for joining us. Richard stopped in for a little while. Keep an eye on me, make sure I don't promise too much. Thank you again for joining us. We, at Suffolk Downs, over the last several years, as we've talked about this and with our partners from Caesars Entertainment, we've talked about how we earn a license here, that this is a process where we clearly, there are measurements along the way, and we have to live up to measurements. We have to really earn this as we work our way through the process. And we talk about setting the standard for gaming development in Massachusetts. And when we talk about that tonight, you're going to hear us talk a lot about standards of sustainability, environmental sustainability, and how we plan to be the greenest casino, not in Massachusetts, not in the United States, but in the world. And so the main point of tonight's meeting is to talk about our DER filing with the state's MEPA office. That's a secondary phase in our state permitting process. So there'll be some very technical stuff. We actually filed our DEIR on September 3rd. It becomes public on September 11th. So this is a little sneak preview tonight for everybody here on what's in the DEIR. That will be the bulk of the presentation. And you'll hear from a variety of our consultants and experts on some very technical aspects of the filing. But in addition to setting the standard for gaming development in environmental design and sustainable design, we also look for ways to set the standard on local business partnerships. We had a business partner, a vendor forum, an exposition here a few weeks ago. We have another one tomorrow night at the Reggie Lewis Center and one on Wednesday up on the North Shore. A gaming development of the size and scope that we're proposing here will spend about $150 million annually on goods and services, and our challenge is to figure out how much of that we can spend locally. We talk about setting the standard for local hiring and hiring practices. We plan to have an all-union facility. Talk about creating 2,500 construction jobs here and 4,000 permanent jobs. So we'll be announcing news in the coming weeks about career forums and giving people from East Boston and Revere, Chelsea and Winthrop and our neighboring communities an opportunity to learn more about the career opportunities and the jobs that we hope to create here. We also have tried to set the standard over the last several years on openness and a participatory process. We've literally had hundreds of public discussions and meetings, and several of them here, and I see some familiar faces. Thank you for coming back. But we really do pride ourselves on the fact that we have had an open and inclusive process as we started talking about this back in the summer of 2007. Now we're in the fall of 2013. And a lot of what we heard during that process shaped the milestone landmark host community agreements we reached in the last couple of weeks with our partners in Boston and Revere. And I know this is the first community meeting, this is the first public forum we've had since we reached those agreements. And I anticipate there will be some questions about those agreements. So after we do our environmental presentation and we go through those details, I'll be here and we'll be here to answer any questions. Those agreements, we worked very, very hard with both communities for over a year to make sure that we got those right. And the cities were very demanding, and we worked very hard to get through that process with them. They are exhaustive agreements. They're comprehensive. They are lengthy. They are filled with detail. The process included lots of public meetings, lots of public input. Those agreements help bring to life the commitments we've made to you over the last several years, guaranteeing 4,000 permanent jobs and 2,500 construction jobs with a preference to Revere and Boston residents. $67 million annually in ongoing annual payments to the cities of Revere and Boston when the resort is fully operational. $45 million in transportation and roadway improvements in East Boston and Revere, some of which you'll hear a little bit more about tonight. Of that $150 million in spending that I mentioned earlier, more than $50 million in annual spending with Revere and Boston-based businesses. Okay, so you think about the jobs we're talking about creating here, the economic opportunity we're creating here. We have a model for our resort that makes our surrounding communities and our neighboring communities, our host communities, partners with us. And spending $50 million with local businesses is a big part of that partnership. The agreements also include up to $49 million in one-time community investments, upfront community investments, before we even open the doors, okay? $33.4 million in East Boston, $16 million in Revere. That's part of our commitment to our communities that the cities can use on capital commitments to education, to parks, to public health, to public safety, to a range of unmet needs in both communities. Capital improvements, including helping Revere with its new football field and youth center, and helping the city of, and helping our neighborhood of East Boston with a new combined state-of-the-art senior and youth center. So these are some of the reasons we're very, very happy to be with you here today, to be going through the next phase of the process. I don't like to slow people down with the process discussion, but it is important that people understand it. So the Gaming Commission in Massachusetts has been up and running for 2 years now, a year and a half. We are competing for the one resort casino license in eastern Massachusetts. That is Suffolk County, where we are, Middlesex County, Essex County, Worcester County, and Norfolk County. It is the biggest geographic region by population. We are competing against a developer in Everett and a developer in Milford, Massachusetts for that license. We have reached our host community agreements. We have asked both cities to hold ballot questions on Tuesday, November 5th, on Election Day. Those are the dates of municipal elections. We're happy and confident. We feel very, very good about the level of support that we have in both communities. We're happy to have our ballot questions on the same day as the elections. There's been a lot of talk about that recently, and when we get to the end of the program, I'll take any questions you have about that, about ward only or citywide. In Revere, for those of you who are from Revere, the ballot question will be citywide. For those of you from Boston and East Boston, there is some question. The gaming law says that in a municipality where the population is more than 125,000 residents, that the ballot question is restricted to the ward in which the development occurs. Okay, now the Boston City Council can opt to make the ballot question citywide, or they could keep it as is, and the ballot question will be East Boston only. There's a lot of people calling for it citywide. There are opponents to our project who are calling for it citywide. We believe that the host community agreement benefits all of Boston, but the neighborhood that is most affected, your neighborhood, those of you from East Boston, should vote on the issue, okay? If and when you approve a casino siting here in the second phase of our proposal, we will be before the Gaming Commission in December with our final application. And if and when we get before the Gaming Commission in December with that application, they have said they will make a decision by April. So for those of you running out the clock and with calendars, we should know one way or the other by April of next year. A lot of people have worked very hard to get us there. You'll hear from a few of those tonight. We introduced our development plans in June of last year or July of last year. And among the folks you'll hear from tonight, one of our key partners, Elkus Manfredi, is our lead architectural firm. And they've done great projects all around the country. They did the Grove in Los Angeles. For any of you who have been there, they've done amazing work in New York at the Time Warner Center, Columbus Circle. We're very fortunate they're based in Boston. We're able to have David Manfredi and his team. So David will be first tonight to reintroduce everybody to our development, to give you a little flavor. I think he's got a sneak preview of some of the interiors as well. So to move the program right along, David Manfredi. Thank you, David.
Good evening, everybody. I haven't had a chance to be back in some time to give you an update on where we are with planning and design, but let me assure you we've been working this whole time, and I think the entire project continues to get better and better as it gets more refined. I just want to say a couple of things. Some people who may be seeing some of this for the first time, I recognize lots of people, so I know a lot of you have seen it many times before. But a couple of very key planning principles. We started from day one with the notion that this was, yes, a casino, but it is much more than just gaming. This is mixed-use development on an urban scale that includes hotels, restaurants, retail, entertainment, and that's really important. It drives much of our planning, and I mean that in a very physical kind of way. You'll see that we've pulled the buildings apart. We've created a kind of campus of buildings that really integrates the buildings with their surrounding landscape. And that's kind of principle number two, that what you have here today is part parkland and part paved parking lots. And our real goal is take back some of those parking lots, restore some of that green space, really expand the sense of parkland, and build new buildings within that parkland, and really create a quite extraordinary kind of place. The folks from our partners from Sasaki Associates will talk more about this whole kind of restorative approach to the landscape. And then I know I've said to many of you before, but I'll say it again. When we first met with the folks, with Richard and with the folks from Caesars, they said, let's put aside some of the traditional thinking about casinos, which has been they're boxes, they're enclosed boxes. Once you get people inside, you don't want them to know what time of day it is. That's not what this is about at all. We've designed a series of buildings that are really quite open to the landscape. You're going to see a lot of glass. You're going to see very open buildings. We're not about making closed boxes. We're about integrating the buildings with the surrounding landscape. So having said that, so you know the site. This is 1A, the existing track, and this is the 160 acres that makes up Suffolk Downs today. And we've talked a lot before. You know, we're right here in the clubhouse here today, and that's the existing building. And then it's surrounded by lots of surface parking and lots of surface parking all the way out to 1A. I'm going to let the folks from Sasaki talk more about this whole entrance drive. But we thought about the site as a network of open spaces that starts with that entry drive, that we bring the whole experience all the way out to 1A. And right from that first moment, there is a sense of you've put aside the rest of the world, and you're in our parkland kind of space. You're in this very special environment. And you can see the kind of road that approaches, and I'm going to show you these slides of that approach and these new buildings, which include the Caesars Hotel, what we call Casino 2 rather, and Casino 1 parking structure. But what I really want to point out is the parts are pulled apart. There's a series of buildings. There's the hotel and casino. There's parking structure with retail. There's the existing clubhouse and Casino 1, all of which is a series of buildings in the landscape that make lots of connections and make different kinds of open space that can accommodate outdoor kinds of events, but also are just there for strolling. They're there to come out into the green space and make connection to all of the surround. On the ground floor of these buildings, and this may be a little bit hard, and I'm going to go through it quickly, but just to give you a little sense of orientation, as you come in off 1A and you come down Tomasello Drive, in front of you will be a large pool of water and then the Caesars Hotel with the casino beyond. And so if you are arriving for the first time, you'll arrive into this entrance drive. It is surrounded by restaurants. You arrive into the casino area, and as you can see, all these different colors represent restaurants and retail that open to the outside. And again, it gives us that way of kind of breaking the box and making connection to the outside. If you arrive and you've been here many times, you want to go straight into the parking structure. The parking structure accommodates 2,500 spaces. And from that parking structure, you can go directly into this casino. You can come across into casino that will be in this building as we completely renovate this building. Take the floor down, make tall spaces, and create a brand new casino here. The clubhouse remains as is, but renovated, with gaming coming into the ground floor and all of the racing activities on the upper floors. And again, you can see sports bar, restaurants, a number of them all around the perimeter of the space. Up on the upper floor is a 16,000 square foot entertainment space. What do I mean by that? I mean a ballroom that can accommodate big events, that can accommodate shows. If you're arriving for a show, you'll come across these bridges from parking structure into that, down into the gaming floor, and then up into that kinds of show space. All of which, a series of events that can happen at the same time, so there is life and activity all of the time. This is a view that you've seen before. It's been updated and refined. It's a view from Orient Heights looking down on the site. And obviously, the race course stays exactly where it is. And there's the existing clubhouse. But this is all of that new construction that I'm talking about. So when you arrive from Tomasello Drive, there's the pool in front. There's a kind of auto drop-off area, 9-story hotel, casino hotel with 300 guest rooms in it, the casino beyond. You can see the connection over to the T that will bring you in from the T stop along the edge of the track and into this kind of outdoor courtyard, into the race course, or into this winter garden that will connect new building and existing buildings. And then the second hotel, an additional 150 guest rooms. Just beyond, you can see parking, you can see all of the barns, and obviously all of the surrounding water. A little closer in, I've arrived now at that front door, and this is really the front door to the casino, the front door to the hotel. And our approach here has been to create a kind of diversity of buildings. We have the existing grandstand. I'm going to show you a rendering of it in a moment. It's going to be totally transformed. It's not going to look anything like what the grandstand looks like today. But we didn't want all these buildings to be exactly the same. We wanted them to be different, like a city's different, like it has generations of development. So the Caesars Hotel is quite a modern building. You can see it has a lot of glass. It's got great views out to the water, great views out to the racetrack, and there is a real sense of arrival when you get here. And then on the opposite side, so if you've come around and you came into the parking structure, this is the great green lawn. Parking structure is to your right, and to your left is the grandstand. The grandstand doesn't look anything like that today. We're going to take all of its enclosure off. As I said, we're going to drop the floors. We're going to completely rebuild the inside of the old grandstand. And we're going to create this kind of romantic sense of racing the way racing should be, in the sense of the great racetracks like Santa Anita and Saratoga that have a real history about them. This is casino on the ground floor. There's restaurants above and support space. And then beyond is the clubhouse and all of the racing activities. And there's what we call the Winter Garden that connects this casino with the other casino and the 150 guest room hotel. This great lawn we think of as green space, part of that network of open spaces, but also a forum to host different kinds of events. A view from Blue Line Road, from the T. As you come from the T, obviously there'll be shuttle buses that can bring you in, but nice weather, a great day like today, you can walk along the edge of the track. You see through to the casino and Caesars Hotel, to the second hotel, and then the grandstand as you know it from the track side. What I just showed you a moment ago was from the Tomasello Drive side. And then as Chip said, I'm going to give you a little sense of the interiors. We've never shown these drawings publicly before. Obviously, as we continue to work, we've developed all of the casino spaces, the restaurants, the guest rooms. This is the lobby of the Caesars Hotel. So when you arrive at that front door where the pool is, in front of the Caesars Hotel, if you're a hotel guest, you'll come into this lobby with reception at the left. There's a small bar beyond. There's connection to restaurants, to the elevator core that will bring you up into the guest rooms. And obviously, Caesars is about quality. It's about a very special guest experience. And then turning just to the left, this is the front door to the casino. And so what you're seeing is the hotel lobby to your right, the casino beyond. This is right in the middle of the casino, a very special kind of gaming entertainment area beyond. And all I'm trying to do is give you a little bit of sense of the level of quality, the level of detail, the quality of materials that will be throughout the entire resort. And then what we call the Flex Entertainment Space, which is a horrible name. It's a great ballroom. It's a great show space. It can be set up for a great banquet. But it can also be set up to do shows, to do live entertainment. It can be broken down and you can do 4 or 5 different events at the same time. It's a 16,000 square foot ballroom, which is a really quite extraordinary kind of space. Oops. And then lastly, I pointed out a couple times on the exterior slides, the Winter Garden. This is the connective space between Casino 1 and Casino 2. It's a light-filled space. You can see we've got orange trees in here. I get kidded a lot about the orange trees. But the point is, there is a sense of going from one building to the next. This is a campus of buildings. We really are creating quite a mixed-use environment that is much more than gaming. It is about entertainment. It's about hospitality. And it's really about creating this kind of oasis in the city of Boston. So that's all very fast. There's a lot of detail. But I'm going to introduce Joe Gashevitz from Caesars, who's going to drill into some more detail.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Joe Gashevitz. I'm with Caesars Entertainment. I'm from the design and construction arm of the company. I'll be the guy that's here responsible to deliver this great product for the city and for the operations folks. So I'm going to take you from, David goes through all the pretty pictures. I'm going to get more into the content of the DEIR and our sustainability specifically. And my introduction to it will be then followed up with some of our professionals here that will talk a little bit more in detail with what this all means. So on this first slide, when we entered into this project, I was challenged by our company to make this a green casino that works, that's innovative, and kind of sets all new boundaries or new heights for future projects, casino projects, not only in the country and for our company, but for around the world. Caesars as a company has a system called Code Green, which is our internal commitment to sustainability. So it's a real thing for us. In the last 9 years, we've spent over $75 million upgrading multiple properties in our umbrella for upgrades like advanced lighting controls and heating, ventilation, air conditioning, things that work better and use less energy. And this is an extension. This is the next step of that. So it's hard. It's come in here and claim that we're going to be the greenest casino. As you see on the board, we're going to be the greenest casino in the world. The challenge is to pull that off for a casino that's a 24/7 operation. You know, casinos use a lot of energy. We have slot machines. We are 24/7. We have entertainment. We have all kinds of things that just consume energy. So the challenge is to deliver a fabulous casino that everybody loves, but is also energy efficient and friendly to the environment. Being green, everyone's used to the LEED measure of LEED gold, LEED platinum. You've probably all heard that. We kind of look beyond that a little bit, and on this project we certainly did. LEED is a great way to, is a checklist basically that can see where you are and measure how sustainable you are. But we decided to kind of forego the list and really lead it by developing a group. I put a group of professionals together. You're going to see in the next slide. We sat down, we talked to community experts, we got ideas, we analyzed these ideas, and the ones that made sense, we deployed them here on the design. And what it ended up doing is leading us to where we are now. The way we got there, I started to talk about a little bit. As these engineers got together and we got all these ideas, we developed a checklist, and this checklist tracked every idea, you name it, we've heard it from green stuff. We've had people from all over the country give us ideas on how we can be more green and innovative. So we took all those ideas, we went through them, we assigned different groups of engineers to them. They came back and told us, hey, this will work, or this doesn't work, this doesn't make sense, this just sounds green but really isn't. Ultimately, we got down, we boiled the list down, we chose what we were going to do, we deployed it in the design, and as a result, the property is going to obtain LEED Gold for certification. We will be the second casino in the country to do that. However, everyone needs to bear in mind that we are still the greenest casino. And why I say that is we did many things that are not required by LEED to get LEED Gold, to go above and beyond. Things you'll hear about from some of our professionals in front of me here, such as recovering 100% of our roof water. That's not required, but we're going to do it. And we're going to use that roof water to water landscape, for landscape watering and for makeup water on our HVAC systems. So the result of the list and all the engineering and the group, the green team, the result is what you see out here now. It's not only LEED Gold, but some of the really important things that come out of this. And I'm going to focus on three that we're really proud of. First is anaerobic digestion. We've partnered with a company and contracted with a company to have the first anaerobic digester regionally that's close to Boston. The location of that is still being finalized, but we have a couple of sites and we're working with them. We're going to be providing these guys 3,100 tons of source-separated organics, which means food garbage. And out of that 3,100 tons annually, they're going to put out 1,020 megawatt hours of power from our garbage. Another big one is PV arrays, otherwise known as solar panels. Everyone's seen them around the airport and some other areas. We went way over the top here. We're going to have over 3.1 megawatts of solar panel power giving us power on the site. That means we're going to have solar power you'll see it over the parking garage, you'll see it on top of this existing building. You'll also see it out in the parking lot, and it'll provide you cover when you park your car, and at the same time be feeding us power. We're going to have over 10% of our own power consumption, and this is for a casino, mind you. It's a big deal. 10% of our power consumption, which gives us, we're going to be one of the largest privately owned if not the largest privately owned solar system in the entire Northeast is going to be here, providing us power. The other one I'd like to talk about is nicknamed Joe's Rooftop Garden because somebody came up with it. What we're going to be doing is a 5,000 square foot greenhouse on the roof of the casino. This greenhouse will be providing fruits and vegetables to all of our restaurants. These fruits and vegetables will save, from a green perspective, saves trucks on the road, diesel fumes, etc. But from a chef's perspective, the idea that the chef can tell us, hey, next month I want to do pasta, and I want some oregano, freshly grown oregano. The grow cycle on this system is 30 days. Within 30 days, we'll be able to grow these plants on the roof in a 5,000 square foot greenhouse. The chef can come up there literally, take the stuff right from these hydroponic gardens, the towers, and put them down in the kitchen. So you talk about fresh fruits and vegetables, you're going to have the best there is to offer here. So we're really proud of this, as well as our other accomplishments for our sustainability drive. With that, I'm going to introduce the next group, and they're going to dazzle you with better pictures again. I had all the hearts of the words and the guts, but these guys have all the pretty pictures. Sasaki and Associates are the landscape architects on the project. David had mentioned them. I have both Gautam and Laura here. I'm going to introduce Laura first. Laura is going to start going through the design of the site. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. I'm Laura Moret with Sasaki Associates, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the site design that we're proposing here. As the landscape architects for the project, we were charged with looking at how to create an ecological site that's restorative, closer to the natural topography that existed here before the vast paved site that you see in the existing condition. And also thinking about how, in addition to the ecological function of the site, how we could create a visually exciting, interesting landscape that's accessible to the public. The new proposal is actually adding 16 acres of new accessible public open space. And that includes a range of spaces that are from walkways that have educational elements where you can kind of meander through ecological landscape, and also more active places like plazas where there can be events, and really creating a range of new opportunities for the public, and creating a place that's not inward looking, as David was describing. It's really an outward looking place that's engaged and reaches out to the community. So here you can see the new proposal for the site. I'll just describe some of the overall layout, and then we'll look in more detail at the different spaces. But coming from Route 1A, a lot of that existing pavement goes away. In fact, we're reducing the paved surfaces, the impervious surfaces on the site by 14 acres, and adding a lot of new green space. So coming from Route 1A, there's a meandering road and a series of walkways that move through bands of planting and trees that filter stormwater and improve the environmental quality of the site as well. And then you arrive at the more intensively used plaza spaces that are around the building that create places for gathering and for activity. Also, the parking is greatly reduced, the surface parking is greatly reduced, and each of those parking lots are treated more like a parking garden where there are canopy trees planted around them, so it's more comfortable to park there and also to walk into the casino from those parking areas. So here we're zooming in on that entry drive, and you can see the bands of colorful plantings with some inspirational images at the bottom, really creating a place that's interesting to walk through, that has educational value, and that also is just visually interesting throughout the seasons, thinking about the colors of the planting through the year. This is a view as if you're hovering over Route 1A looking into the site and seeing that kind of meandering bands of landscape and seeing the casino beyond and those pathways that would be accessible to the public for them to use. This is a little cross-section that describes in a little bit more detail the planting strategy of that entry landscape. And here, what's kind of interesting is that the colorful bands of planting are also corresponding to the topography, and they're helping to treat the stormwater. All of the stormwater that falls on the site is treated by these planted areas and infiltrated into the ground to recharge the groundwater. So it's both visually interesting and an ecological amenity. All of the plantings that we're proposing here are native plantings. Now this is a zoom into Blue Line Road. What we're doing is actually moving Blue Line Road further away from the community edge, giving it a little bit more space and planting a buffer that creates a tree-lined area along the community edge, the Orient Heights edge, and then providing a multimodal pathway that's a bike path and a pedestrian path that's shaded with a double row of trees. You can see it in a little more detail in this cross-section with the planted area along the neighborhood edge and the pathway coming in that's shaded and making the connection from the T-stop to the resort. You can see it's right along the horse track too, so you get those views of the horse track as you're entering the site. Looking at one of the other edges, important edges of the project, this is Winthrop Avenue in Revere. And here the proposal is to create a new public sidewalk shaded by canopy trees with new plantings along its edge and replacing the existing fence with a more visually kind of aesthetic, inviting fence along that edge and really making a connection to the Revere community along the Revere edge of the site. So those are kind of the more periphery parts of the site, and now we're zooming into the landscapes around the casinos themselves. This is the entry court, so that when you're arriving to the site, this is probably one of the major drop-offs that you might arrive at. There's a significant water feature here that's that pool of water that David described, with a plaza in the interior of it that could be used for pedestrians and for gathering with seating. But it's really a little oasis outside of the casino. And then there's a northern, what we're calling the North Plaza, that's between Casino Area 1 and the parking garage that is a really large space. It's really pedestrian-oriented. It also allows for drop-off to Hotel 2 and to the casino area, but it's treated in such a way that it's used mostly as a pedestrian environment. It's all kind of nice, high-quality paving with these two big lawn panels in the center, shaded by trees. So this can be used to set up bigger events, farmer's market, a movie night, a wedding, something like that. Could be used in many different ways. And then finally, what we're calling the South Plaza, near the southern parking lot. This one is characterized by a grove of trees with benches and seating underneath that could be used for more quiet reflection or gatherings of small groups. And there would be cafes spilling out from the casino on the edges of this plaza. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Gautam, who is going to talk a little bit more about the sustainability of the site.
Thank you. So you've heard from Chip, from Joe, we've tried to aspire to create this project that's going to be the greenest casino. So how do we do that? And that's some of the things that I wanted to talk about now is how have we taken every single aspect of the site and tried to make that and push the envelope of being innovative, but also trying to be very purposeful and restorative with the landscape and to create this site that's going to be a living system of these diverse open spaces, but also has a purpose that goes just beyond the visual aspects of it. So the first aspect of it, when you look at it, is the landscape, the planting, the existing conditions that you see. Obviously, what you see right now is mostly paving. It's mostly asphalt paving. There's fragments of some trees, which are remnants of a historic landscape that used to be here, but it's very weak. It's not something that you want to gather around or build upon. So that's one of the things that you'll start to see first. The second is when you start to look at the edges of the site as to how this starts to abut with the neighborhood and what some of those buffers and these edges are like. So as we start to look at the existing site and say, okay, first step is to try to be more restorative. How can we go back to what the site used to be many, many years ago, number one. Number two is how can we be more purposeful with every aspect that we do, every plant species or every move that we make. And thirdly, how can it have much more of an environmental benefit and also a social benefit for all of us. So the first thing we've done is, okay, with the planting, what we've started to do is looking at the edges and how we can reintroduce a more of an evergreen buffer that actually starts to create that sense of arrival, but also creates a nice, strong evergreen edge that's between the neighborhood and the site, between the oil tanks and the site. So you start to create a very strong green edge along there as well. That's the one. Two is, as Laura described, all the plant species that we're trying to create this rich and bold entry landscape with is going to be native, number one. Number two is going to be drought tolerant, so it does not draw upon irrigation or other water demands. But it's also going to serve as a purpose to improve the soil quality, improve the water quality as before it's discharged into the city system. So it's being very purposeful, but also serves a much higher environmental benefit as well in trying to restore not just the visual aspect, but actually what this used to be like, a functioning, living environment. The second is with the introduction of all the tree species, the diverse types of tree species, the trees, the grasses, the shrubs. What we're also trying to do is now start attracting native habitat as well, which is something that does not exist at all right now, but try to create opportunities that will start to attract those habitat. Secondly, also start to create social spaces and more a park-like landscape that you can now start to actually walk through and enjoy more as you see through that landscape. And each of these different aspects that I just described has a much higher environmental benefit with the amount of pollution it starts to reduce with all the trees that you introduce, with the amount of stormwater that it actually starts to intercept and collect, also improving the water quality and the soil conditions as well on the site. So those are some of the aspects that we've tried to hit upon with the landscape, with all the plant species. Secondly, as we start to talk about the water, obviously, as you can see, there's no really a stormwater management strategy on site. Any water that falls on the site really goes into a pavement, then goes into a catch basin, and then is discharged into the city system. So we said, okay, we're reducing, as Laura said, we're reducing over 16 acres of impervious surface into green surfaces. So let's try to collect all this water, and let's try to reuse them, and also start to improve the quality of it before it's discharged into the city system. So one is, let's start to reuse. That's the first aspect of it. So we collected, as Joe said, all the roof water, and we're trying to reuse that for irrigation because that's the cleanest water. Reuse that for the fountain and that water feature, so it's not something that's going to draw upon more resources. And then thirdly is take the water that falls on the ground and improve that quality, improve the cleanliness of it, and filter this through a series of bioinfiltration systems. Then that's made into 90% or cleaner water before it's discharged into the city system. What does that mean? We've employed a number of different innovative ways of using this water. Is you'll see we're collecting the water from the building, reusing it for the fountain, collecting the water in the entry landscape, and infiltrating that to the ground, purifying the quality. The parking courts, where a lot of the parking lots are, we have parking surfaces, collect all the water, introduce it into the bioswales, and then discharge it into the city system. And with that, I wanted to hand it over to Scott from Niche Engineering, who's been working very closely with us as a partner in taking all these different planning principles into much more detail and cover those into much stronger metrics as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Gautam. My name is Scott Turner. I'm with Niche Engineering. We're the civil engineering consultant on the project, and we're working really closely with Gautam and Laura and the rest of the team to help provide the greenest casino in the world and the greenest casino site in the world. So what I want to do is I just want to build a little bit on what Gautam talked about. I want to talk mostly about water and water resources, and I want to talk about three things, really: cleaner stormwater, water conservation, and then I want to talk a little bit about climate change and sea level rise adaptation. That's something that we've been asked to really dig into by the city of Boston, and it's something that's really timely and pertinent these days. So first, this slide is very similar to the one that Gautam just showed. This talks about, this shows the existing drainage patterns on the site. The existing site was built in the 1930s, and at that time, that was before any environmental guidelines or any environmental laws were in place. There certainly wasn't any concern about stormwater. The only thing that you really needed to do with stormwater was move it off the site as quickly as possible. There was no thought at all to putting it back in the ground, to treating it, or any of that type of stuff. So that's what you have here. I mean, again, the drainage system is perfectly fine for circa 1930s, but since then there's been a number of environmental laws, and there are more to come to help provide groundwater recharge and cleaner stormwater, provide infiltration, and so forth. So this chart just shows the flow patterns, and the majority of the water flows towards Sales Creek and the Belle Isle Marsh. And I will tell you that due to the new stormwater system that we are proposing in place, the water quality that discharges from the site into Sales Creek and Belle Isle Marsh will be greatly improved. The new guideline, our stormwater system, will meet and exceed the current stormwater management guidelines and is looking ahead, looking forward to the new stormwater guidelines, new EPA stormwater guidelines that we anticipate coming. This new design will treat all the stormwater in excess of to the removal of in excess of 80% of all total suspended solids. We're going to capture and infiltrate 230,000 gallons of stormwater, treat it through bioretention basins, and infiltrate it into the ground, which will provide treatment for phosphorus, nitrogen, bacteria. It's a tremendous improvement over what is currently on the site. As Gautam said, water conservation is a huge part of this program. We are proposing what we believe to be the largest rainwater harvesting system in the state. We're proposing 3 large rainwater harvesting tanks. One of them will be 80,000 gallons, one will be 130,000 gallons, and one will be 60,000 gallons for a total of 270,000 gallons per day. That will save over 4.5 million gallons of water, water that would otherwise come from the MWRA and the Boston Water and Sewer System. It's water that's saved on an annual basis. This water will be used for irrigation. It will irrigate the landscape that Gautam and Laura are designing. It will be used for cooling tower water, and it will also be used for track maintenance water. So that's a tremendous improvement over what is there now. The landscaping that Gautam and Laura are designing will use a lot of low water consuming plants. We estimate that that's going to be a savings of roughly 50% over conventional plantings. And the building itself will have all low-flow fixtures consistent with the LEED guidelines that will save about 25% over a standard building that's designed according to the state building code. The last thing I want to talk about is sea level rise and climate change. There's been an awful lot of discussion lately in the newspapers about sea level rise and what's going to happen as our climate warms and glaciers melt and sea level rise increases and storms like Sandy become more current. And so this is a very difficult problem to solve. There's no real guidelines. In fact, when we went and talked to the City of Boston, I said, you know, I'm an engineer. I like to look at guidelines and design to the standards. And they said, well, there's no standards for this. We look to you to provide us with guidance on how to mitigate sea level rise and climate change. So what we did is we looked at a lot of different publications, and we looked at the most current publication that's been talked about a lot. If you've been following this issue in the newspapers, the Boston Harbor Association came up with a methodology back in February to talk about how to estimate, or what they believe to be sea level rise and storm surge impacts. And what we did is this graph, or this chart, shows different impacts for different storms that would be projected over the next 35 to 70 or 65 years. The gray line, or the bluish line that's shown here, shows where stormwater may, what level of stormwater may reach the site during a storm such as Superstorm Sandy, while taking into account sea level rise, and sea level rise of about 2.5 feet. So you can see the entrance is here. The current entrance would be underwater, and the water would go right up to the edge of the building, more or less. So what we've done, working with Gautam and Laura, is to try to raise the site to make sure that the site is, the buildings and all the critical infrastructure, including your mechanical systems, the backup generators and so forth, are outside of that gray line. If you notice, that gray line has moved. It's shifted to the outside of the to the outer limits of the site and the outer limits of where the main infrastructure is located. The road is now on this side, so what we'll have is we'll have a safe vehicular access to the casino during a bad storm. This facility will serve as a safe haven for people that need shelter from the storm. Also, the gray line has moved outward so that it's not near the facility, it's not near the Casino 1 or Casino 2 or the parking garage, but it allows for people to come and go, and again, it provides a safe haven for the surrounding community. So we think that this is a tremendous way of dealing with the sea level rise issue. At the same time, we're providing over 60,000 cubic feet of additional storm storage on the site. And what we're doing is we're regrading this parking lot. The blue area that you see on this slide is parts of the parking lot that will be regraded down. So we'll provide more storm storage for high-intensity storms. The orange area on the upper left side talks about or shows another flood compensation area. So basically, if the site is ever inundated by stormwater, we have more storage to mitigate it. That's just a brief snippet of what we're doing in terms of stormwater and sea level rise. I want to turn it over to David Black from VHB. So he's going to talk about traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I'm David Black from VHB. I've been working for over 4 years with Chip on this project, and Chip's set us some lofty goals for the project, and they've translated into a project which is going to be multimodal. You're going to be able to get there by very different means. It's going to be supported by comprehensive transportation management demand, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But there were some other commitments that were made right up front. We wanted this project to address any potential adverse project impacts, but we also wanted to address existing problems on the roadway networks, congestion problems, safety problems, operational problems. And we wanted to keep the traffic off of local streets and keep it on the regional roadways. The most significant commitment I think you've all heard about is the project's commitment to build a flyover at Boardman. This came very much from community requests to dust off old plans for Route 1A and revive the idea of having a flyover at Boardman Street to keep the regional traffic out of the intersection itself. So when I say multimodal, I mean a choice. This is a very unique project. It's very unusual to have a casino resort project sitting right on a subway line. And this is a huge asset for the project. We do expect a lot of patrons to use the Blue Line. We expect a large number of the employees to use the Blue Line and the local buses to get to work. And we have ways to incentivize that, which I'll talk about in a moment. We're going to provide a connection to water transportation. The project will provide funding for the Mayor's initiative to provide water transportation to the East Boston waterfront. We will provide not only some funding for that, but also a shuttle connection for people who want to come by water transportation. We will have a very extensive shuttle bus system. These are shuttles that carry more than 1 or 2 people, unlike a private car. So they're high occupancy vehicles that minimize the need to have lots and lots of cars coming to the site. They will serve everything from remote employee lots to downtown hotels, to businesses in Maverick Square, to the airport. Every destination will be covered by shuttle service. This project is going to be accessible by bicycle and pedestrian. The site itself, you've heard about the design of the site. It's going to be a very pleasant site for people to walk through. We're going to make sure that the pedestrians and cyclists get to the entrances of the site safely. And then finally, I just wanted to say something more about the transportation demand management, which goes behind all of this to make it happen. There are a host of things that we plan for the resort to do that are aimed to encourage people to use alternate modes. That's giving people a choice of different ways to get to the resort. We're able to do a lot of that with employees by subsidizing employee T-passes. We're going to guarantee people a ride home. That means that if the T has stopped running at night, as it does, you won't be stranded at the casino. It means if you normally drive your car, you're afraid to drive your car to work because you might have to go home for an emergency, you won't need your car because there will be an emergency ride home. There are going to be substantial bicycle facilities on the site. When the city expands the hubway system to East Boston, we'll be providing 2 new hubway stations on the site. Significantly, the project is going to spend over $3 million in enhancements to the Blue Line station at Suffolk Downs. That is a substantial improvement for the station. And then I wanted to mention just one other thing about sustainability. You may think that none of this has anything to do with sustainability. It has, from the perspective that we're minimizing use of single-occupant vehicles, but also we're going to apply sustainability principles to the planning and design of the infrastructure. And we will be on the leading edge of what is known as the Green Roads Initiative, which is emerging in the industry. And it can boil down to simple things like we will use recycled steel in constructing the flyover. We will be using cold mixed concrete instead of hot mixed concrete. And then in the design itself, if you've a chance to look at the model at the back of the room, you'll see that the flyover is designed to blend into the hillside so that it's aesthetically pleasing to people using it. I think a lot of you have seen this plan before in different forms. It is a summary of the transportation commitments off-site. The centerpiece I mentioned is the commitment to build a flyover at Boardman Street. It's supported by a host of other regional traffic improvements, things that will improve traffic in the region, such as connecting the Route 1 and Route 16 ramps properly so that people can choose to stay on Route 1 instead of traveling on Route 63 Revere. There are a large number of local improvements where we don't have significant impact by the project, but where we're going to provide safety improvements for pedestrians and traffic. There are bicycle facilities to be provided to connect Constitution Beach to Revere Beach. The connection to water transportation that I mentioned before. So it is a comprehensive package. It will address all project impacts, but it will also address existing issues, whether they be traffic congestion or safety. I'm going to hand back to Chip.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Gautam and Laura, Scott, David Manfredi, Joe. Thank you, everybody. That was a ton of information to throw at you. We've had entire 2.5, 3-hour meetings just on the transportation and infrastructure. We've had other discussions about various parts of our development proposal. Part of the DEIR process, part of this filing, is alternatives. So the Mass Department of Transportation has asked us to look at alternatives for some of these various intersections. You know, you're planning to do this at 1 and 16, what are alternatives? You're planning to do this for the flyover, what are the alternatives? They've also asked, as part of the DEIR, it's our obligation to tell the state some alternative development scenarios for the property, okay? And I do this with some trepidation. But it's in the DEIR, and I want people to know what's in the DEIR and what we're filing. If we are not successful in earning a gaming license, and we think we're going to be, we are planning for success, we think we have the best plan, and we think we should win. But one of the things the state asks us for is alternative development scenarios for the property. I'm going to show you two. These are realistic mixed-use developments. This is 161 acres. It is a very, very large site, okay? It is almost unprecedented in the city of Boston, with proximity to Boston, proximity to the airport, proximity to public transportation, to have this large a site that is mostly undeveloped, okay? We have the building that you're in and the barn area in Revere. In fact, others have proposed for us alternative developments. We prefer our vision for resort gaming development here that creates 4,000 jobs and preserves the racetrack and all the jobs of the people who have been working here for the last several years. This one that you're looking at is a traditional mixed use. This one is the commercial office development, okay? So all of the pinkish red buildings are office. Yellow is residential, and most of the residential you can see is on the corners of the property, taking advantage of the access to public transportation in the two corners. The Suffolk Downs MBTA station at the top left, the Beachmont MBTA station down at the bottom right near Washburn Avenue, okay? Each one of these contains 900 to 1,000 units of housing, in addition to mixed of office and retail uses. So this one is much more retail oriented, okay? So this one is mostly office space with retail on the first floor. You can see Tomasello Drive becomes a street. There are 3 parking structures. All of the gray are parking structures. This one is more retail. All of the purple there is retail. This is about 1.5 times the size of the Square One Mall, okay, in Saugus, for people who are interested in trying to understand the scope, okay? So, again, these will be part of the DEIR. So if you pick up the DEIR, you go to the monitor on the website on Wednesday and you look at your copy, understand this is not what we're proposing to build, but it's what the state has asked us what the potential alternative developments for the property are. So with that, I will open it up to questions. Again, knowing we've thrown a lot at you. We have a couple of friendly folks here who will help facilitate questions. Dylan and John, and I think Dylan is on the track side. No, it's Jason. It's my friend Jay Ruggiero. Okay, so Jason is on the track side with a microphone. And who do we have over here? We do have John. Okay, John. So if anybody has any questions, now's the time, and we'll take questions on anything you heard tonight. We'll take questions on anything that you have on your mind. If you would be kind enough to tell us who you are and where you live, that's always helpful.
I live just a stone's throw from here on Campbell Avenue.
Okay.
My name is Claire. And what about the gas tanks? Are we going to do anything to pretty them up?
Well, we don't own those.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The 2 parcels are owned by 2 different companies. Irving owns the one further south, and the Slivka family, Global, owns the one further north. It is our hope that we are able to buffer those areas with some of the landscape features that Gautam and Laura talked about.
Maybe they could paint them like they did when you on Route 3 and you go down the Cape. They painted one of them. Okay, next question.
We had a really clever suggestion by somebody that we should paint them like poker chips all the way around.
There you go. What about Shaw's down the street? Any plans for Shaw's?
Well, John Festa was here earlier from the city of Revere,
okay, I missed it.
And we know that there's been a lot of interest in the property. The Shaw's lease has expired. The Seratani family still owns the property, and they are actively marketing it. It is our hope that there will be development there that will complement what we're doing if we're successful. There's been talk about hotels and other types of development there that we think would be fantastic, actually.
And this one may be just a little more difficult. You mentioned 4,000 jobs. Is there preference? What is the percentage for Revere residents for jobs versus East Boston residents? Is there a percentage, 10 versus 50?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
So in our host community agreement with Boston, we are targeting 50% of the jobs, the permanent jobs for Boston residents, okay? I don't think there's any particular East Boston target for that. It may, and I'll have to double check. I am always, I read through both host community agreements over the weekend, so they would be fresh in my head. But it's 200 pages of material, so if I misspeak on anything tonight, I have some people here who will correct me, or I'll try to correct the record for you. It's 10% in Revere, and that's 400 jobs for Revere residents. When you see how many people live in the city of Boston versus how many people live in the city of Revere, we think it's a good agreement for both communities. And there's, of course, no cap. If we can find 600 Revere residents who want to work here, we've told the city we're happy to work with them on that. But that is the baseline guarantee in the host community agreement. Okay? Yes?
Based on a player's income, might there be some program that limits them from not losing too much?
So the question is about limiting people's potential losses at a gaming facility, at our facility, based on their level of income. We would not have the ability to ask somebody what their level of income was, okay? That's not a question that I'm not sure a lot of you, the people in the room tonight, would be perfectly comfortable with us asking. But I want you to know we take very seriously our commitment to the small percentage of people for whom this is not a healthy activity. And whether you peg that at 1% of the population, like the leading experts at Harvard do, or 5% or 6% of the population, which other people may, we have had a long-standing partnership with the Massachusetts Council on Compulsive Gambling. They are woefully underfunded right now and have been doing an amazing amount of work with not a lot of funds and not a lot of resources. This gaming bill that Massachusetts passed puts aside more money from the gross gaming revenue of the casinos, whether it's us or somebody else or a slot facility or something in Western Massachusetts. Massachusetts puts aside more money for addiction prevention, treatment, education, resources than any state in the country. Okay, so the Mass Council on Compulsive Gambling is about to go from woefully underfunded to having the tools and the resources to deal with this. In addition, we have some self-exclusion policies here. Sure. What's your suggestion? Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I've been gambling for a long time. I'm not rich or married. Thank you very much. I do believe with all the continuous improvement available that you probably will do the best job you can.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. But this is an area that we take very seriously, and our partners at Caesars, one of the reasons we partnered with Caesars, we talk about what a great cultural fit Caesars was as a company for us. Their Code Green, their commitment to sustainability was one of the reasons. They also have industry best practices in the area of compulsive gambling, and that's another reason that we partnered with Caesars. Next question. Yes, so we have a couple over here, and then, okay. Oh, I'm going to go over here to Jason, then we'll come back to you, and then to Celeste.
L.A. DePasquale, Revere Beach Boulevard. And so because I live on the boulevard, I'm concerned about all the traffic problems. My concern is nothing, of course, is mentioned about Squire Road or Bell Circle. And I don't know in the future if there'll be any plans to alleviate the traffic that's already there. You did say you were going to have from Route 1 North into Everett, where Revere Beach Boulevard is. You had mentioned before at a previous meeting, are you going to do like an overpass there? Are you going to have a set of lights, or do they have to go on the boulevard and take the U-turn?
Sure. This is, it's complicated to explain without a diagram, but I'm happy to give it a shot, and David Black may be able to back me up here. So what we have proposed, as we looked at our traffic impacts, 70% of the car visitation comes from the two tunnels, okay? So 70% comes from the two tunnels, so that's the most of the impact is on Route 1A coming from Boston to the facility. That's we've proposed the biggest fixes on the 1A corridor. The rest of that 30% is diffused from the north and the west. So it's about 7% coming across Route 16, okay? And then about 20% coming down the Route 1 and Route 1A and 107 and all those roads that come through Revere. As we looked at Bell Circle, and solving Bell Circle may be beyond the scope of this project or anyone, but as we looked at Bell Circle, we thought the best way to deal with it was try to take traffic out of Bell Circle, okay? To try to take traffic from this facility and other existing traffic by adding ramp connections at 16 and Route 1. So if you're heading from Suffolk Downs on 16 and you want to get on Route 1 north, you can't get there. Okay, you got to go past Route 16 and do a U-turn and go up. So what we're proposing is to add ramp connections, 2 missing ramp connections to Route, so you'd be able to get on Route 1 north from Route 16 east, and you'd be able, coming down Route 1 right now, if you're coming down Route 1 from Peabody or Danvers or Rowley or any of those places up there, you want to go to the airport, the signs tell you to get off at Route 60 and come through the succession of circles in Revere. So if we add, so right now if you want to get off at 16, you got to take a right, wait at Webster Avenue, take a U-turn. So we're adding a left off that ramp so you can come down off of Route 1 and take a left right onto 16 East. We think it takes a bunch of traffic out of Route 60. In fact, the transportation, VHB and the engineers have run modeling on it, and the cities of Boston and the cities of Revere both hired experts to peer review VHB's analysis. So by doing those ramp connections at 1 and 16, we alleviate some of the traffic out of the Bell Circle intersection. And we are also making safety improvements at Bell Circle. We have a question here, and then we'll try to bounce around a little bit. Yeah?
Hi, I'm Deborah White. I'm speaking for my sister. She's not feeling very well this evening. She's from North Shore Road here in Revere. Sure. On 1A. A couple of questions. One is to elaborate on that gentleman that said about gambling. The program that you're saying that Massachusetts has, is Caesars going to put more money into that program for Gamblers Anonymous, whatever?
Well, sure.
Are they putting a certain dollar amount into that program, or are we just expecting the state to?
No, we're a percentage of every dollar wagered here will go into that program.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Good. Now, as far as a major problem, question that my sister has is, flood insurance. She's hearing something about that might change, have something to do with the neighborhood here.
So,
do you know if that would impact their flood insurance programs? If it would make it more expensive or less expensive?
Shouldn't have any effect on it whatsoever. In fact, our facility is improving a 78-year-old drainage and stormwater system. Now, we spent $3.5 million 2 years ago to improve the drainage and stormwater system in the barn area on the Revere side of the property. And we have a retention pond in the infield now, a second pond. So I think that the work that we've done here is actually improved. And you heard Scott talk about our sea level rise planning. I never thought when this process started out in 2007 that we would be standing here talking about being a potential shelter for the community in the event of a 100-year flood.
Bringing me to the next question.
But that's because of where we are and the way these guys have designed the site. We actually have we've got an opportunity to really mitigate against sea level rise.
Right. And if that's going to provide a safe haven, will that be for all who may be present at the casino in the casino area, or is it just for?
Well,
minimal amount?
That's a
worried about
great
everybody.
question about public safety planning that I'm not sure I'm fully able to give you an answer to that tonight. And Paul Evans, who's doing that work for us, isn't here tonight. But as we talked about this with the city of Boston, after Superstorm Sandy, sea level rise, and what happened in New York and New Jersey, it became a very hot topic up and down the East Coast and in the Eastern Seaboard. And the city of Boston is very concerned about it, not just with our development, but any development that happens in the waterfront, the Seaport District. And so these new standards will be happening. And then the process of how you become a shelter and how you become a haven in the event of an event, we haven't worked through yet. Okay, and I'm going to give you one more. Is that it?
It's just the police. The police forces will be. They'll add many more policemen onto the forces for the city of Revere and Boston as well.
Part of our host community agreements with both cities enables them to add public safety personnel and resources at our expense, and so that any. It's important for people to understand this. Any costs, direct costs that the municipalities bear as a result of our development, we pay for out of the fees, the impact fees in that host community, in those host community agreements. Okay? All right. I'm going to, Celeste, did you want to, okay. Yes? Oh, Jay, you got to be demanding of attention, right? So I'm going to go with you, and then I'll go back to Jay.
We're the ones who have to leave Winthrop and try and negotiate our way to work or anywhere else on these streets, and yet Winthrop, up to date, hasn't been mentioned and doesn't seem to be considered as far as I know. So I'd like to know if you have anything to say about Winthrop.
I would like to hopefully gently correct that, because we've had 5 or 6 public meetings in Winthrop. We've talked to the town council. They've appointed a committee to negotiate a surrounding community agreement with us. We do think lots of the $45 million in road and infrastructure improvements, a lot of the improvements on 1A and Boardman Street are of significant benefit to Winthrop residents. Winthrop residents trying to get back to their house at night, trying to get out of their houses in the morning, and they get to in improvements. Well, you can shake your head and say no, but it is our hope that some of those will be beneficial to Winthrop residents. And then I guess there'll be more to come as we get closer to a surrounding community agreement with the town. But we've begun that process. The town has some consultants helping it with that process. Okay, Jay.
Hi, my name is Joe Lorenza. I live on Standish Road. Now, you mentioned Sales Creek. I've lived here 25 years, and I've seen it flood twice. So you just said you're going to have all kinds of flood waters. You're going to take care of it. How are you going to take care of Sales Creek?
I believe we can't raise Sales Creek. Okay, it is in the floodplain, and if there's a significant event, we've tried to design in ways to make sure that we keep people safe, that there's a haven for the community, that the facility is preserved.
No, that's not what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
You're talking about hundreds of thousands of gallons of water runoff. Where's it going to run? You mentioned Sales Creek.
Ours currently runs into Sales Creek. The program
absolutely.
you just saw is designed to make sure it doesn't run into Sales Creek. In fact, there'll be less water from this facility going into the creek after we build, if we're successful in earning a license and doing this, than goes there now.
All right. I hope so.
Well, thank you for boiling down for everybody the point of Scott's presentation. So, all right. Yes?
Hi, Ernesto Moreno, East Boston. More traffic, increased toll roads, the price of the toll, and also gas prices around here because the state subsidizes the gasoline. So any discussion about that with the state?
we have had discussions with the state about how we can work if we're successful, and we do our $45 million in road and infrastructure improvements, how we can be part of the planning for future projects that are of regional impact, and how we can work with not just Boston and Revere, but Winthrop and Chelsea and Malden and some of the other communities to help take priority areas like the Route 1 widening and things like that and try to move them up on the priority list. Okay.
Next.
Yes.
Back.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Hartnett. I live on Ocean Ave on Revere Beach. And I have a question for you about the traffic patterns. Ed was trying to explain the diagram down there on 1A North to me. And
Sure.
I'm having a hard time understanding how your plan is going to alleviate traffic. On 1A North, you've got a flyover which eliminates the light at Boardman Ave.
Correct.
Which will help. But it looks like you've moved the light just one block further at Waldemar Ave and then added another light just down the street at Tomasello Ave at the entrance to the casino. So how will that take care of the 1A traffic, which right now backs up all the way to McClellan Highway and into the airport sometimes? Because you said 70% of the traffic is expected to come through the tunnels.
That's
one part.
Okay, because I can't wait for this one. This is like a setup. This is so easy this one's so easy.
Well, I asked this question at your first meeting at Revere Beach, and I'm even more confused
You're
now.
consistent, Lorraine.
Yes, you got it. The second part is nothing so far addresses the existing traffic problem on Winthrop Ave and Furlong Drive, just down the street.
Yeah.
So my question is, again, how are you going to alleviate the traffic problems that we have now?
Okay, so I'll take them one at a time. On 1A, one of the reasons that phenomenon you mentioned about 1A backing up into the airport is because everyone has to stop at Boardman Street, right? So if we take the traffic up and over Boardman Street and nobody has to stop, that traffic flows more freely. In addition to the flyover at Boardman Street, we are widening 1A, okay? So it's 2 lanes south now. We're extending the queuing area in certain areas, right, to make it safer. But if what's now 2 lanes is 3 lanes south in parts, okay, as it gets past our front door and down past Boardman Street, that moves it moves 1.5 to, it goes from 100% to 150%, right? So, instead of 2 cars, it's 3 cars, and you do that math over and over again, you're getting people into the tunnels much faster in the morning. You're getting people up here more quickly, and so long as they can process. So we're making signal and grade improvements in fact, I'd invite you to look at the Revere Host Community Agreement on the City of Revere's website and the link on our website, because it spells out improvements we are making to intersections all the way up, Harris Street and 16, Route 60, Brown Circle, Butler Circle, that the City of Revere has asked us to make specific improvements at all those intersections. They're all in there, okay?
But is it still true that on 1A North, you're going to all cars are going to have to stop at Waldemar Ave at that traffic light?
because the traffic signal at Waldemar Ave and the front door of Suffolk Downs are only about 150 yards apart. So that acts as one signal, okay? If you stop once there, you can't stop the second time. It's
Okay, but
so
1A North traffic
right.
is still going to have to stop at a traffic light.
Well, I mean, if we didn't have a traffic light there, it would be chaos, right? I mean, one of the things, right?
That's what we have right now.
Yeah. So no, I mean, there are some. Okay, whether it's this development or the alternate development I showed you, there's going to be some kind of development here. That's going to attract a certain number of people and cars. And we are pledging and required to, as part of our host community agreement, spend $45 million on local road and infrastructure improvements. We've given that a lot of thought over the last 5 or 6 years. Our engineers looked at it. The City of Revere looked at it and hired engineers to look at it. The City of Boston looked at it and hired engineers to look at it. There's only so much I could tell you that where I say we think we're going to improve conditions by doing that, by designing to more than our capacity. We feel like we have a very good plan.
All right, and where can we find more information about intersections like Furlong Ave and Winthrop Ave?
Sure, that's, well, I'll have Ed Lamoli get you a copy of the Revere Host Community Agreement.
Great.
With all of the intersections and all the improvements spelled out. And you're welcome to call Frank Stringy, the city planner in Revere, who really was instrumental in helping us with the Revere traffic improvements.
Perfect.
And they're on our website as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to, all right. It is 8:15. We'll probably go till about 8:30 since we started at 6:30. So I'll take a couple more. And John, there are some people waiting. Okay, so Celeste, you were waiting patiently. I'm going to get to Celeste, and then we'll get a couple of others.
Hi, my name is Celeste Myers, and I live on Bennington Street, pretty much right behind Suffolk Downs. And I won't ask too much tonight, Chip. But first, looking at the filing, I believe the last time that the EPA folks were out, they described that they are not really responsible for licensing or permitting or even really providing a barometer for folks to see how well you measure against other developments. I also believe that the city of Boston has pretty stringent requirements around developments needing to seek LEED certification. Having recently come off working as a project admin for a construction job myself, where we were seeking silver certification, I know what a challenge it is and how quickly and easily you can lose points. So it's admirable that you're seeking to supersede the requirements for gold certification.
Thank you.
What will you do to keep folks informed about your progress against it and where you ultimately land? My concern is that this is kind of tantamount to big splashy headlines at the front end, and then when it doesn't quite work out, a tiny little quiet retraction. So,
well, the Boston Host Community Agreement requires us to achieve LEED Gold, or we can't build. So that's part of our agreement with Boston. So we don't get to shoot for it and miss. We've got to get it.
Good. Beautiful. And then the other piece, I know Ed's coming to take the microphone away, but the other piece that I have, and you opened up saying that we could address the host community agreement, and it is a very robust document, and I have yet to drill all the way through it, 189 pages. But I know a piece of the information that is not included are details around jobs. And I know folks have asked you about percentages and numbers going to surrounding communities. Yeah. But I've been asking for over a year and a half now for even simpler data than that. Types of jobs, job descriptions, profiles, pay rates, and salaries.
Sure.
Just so folks, I mean, we're all looking for an optimum election day and optimum results. And the way we're going to get there is through information and allowing people to have as much informed choice in decision making. And I want to up the ante a little bit because prior to the program starting this evening, I had a conversation with Rico, and he was describing all of the wonderful benefits afforded to Caesars employees, and one of them being tuition reimbursement and the like. Now, I've worked in many different environments in human resources, and there are different thresholds of benefits afforded to employees based on salary rates, based on hours of weekly employment and the like.
Sure.
So one of the things that I'd like to see disclosed is an employee handbook. So people know that if they're going for an admin position, what benefits will be afforded to them and what are the hours. If you're going for a cocktail waitress position, again, what benefits? Will you be able to get your master's degree like Rico did? I think that that's fair to ask for when when the bulk of your strategy in your campaign is jobs and opportunity. To quote you, Chip, I'm not big on hypotheticals, so please give us as much information as possible so we can make informed decisions. I don't poo-poo hospitality industry jobs at all. I have 25 years experience in the hospitality industry. You know I currently work there. I'm not making $42,000 a year. Sadly, if the casino comes here, I'm not likely to shift to come over here, but it would be great if my neighbors could really get some real, crystal clear, candid visibility into the jobs, into the pay rates, into the benefits, and be able to make an informed decision.
Okay. Thank you, and I'm not sure there's an answer to, but I will say this. I appreciate your candor and your passion. If there were a development that were coming to town and wanted to hire 400 people locally, I think sometimes cities and towns would be falling all over themselves. And we're here and have been here for 78 years and want to employ 4,000 people locally. And I guess I'm getting used to the fact that we're asked to adhere to a higher standard than just about any development in the Commonwealth, and we're comfortable with that. But these are real jobs, and if you want to, I'm always a little sensitive about the job factor because of all the good people that I've worked with here. I started here in 1991. I worked here from 91 to 97. I came back in 2007. And we live in a community in East Boston with a median income of about $16,000 per person. And so I was at a community forum with some people, and we were explaining these jobs. And sure, there are part-time and full-time. And there are jobs for people who want to be in the hospitality interest and have another job, okay? But these jobs average about $42,000 a year. They're all union with good benefits, okay? We're going to have career forums in the coming months. We'll get into more details about the jobs, the job categories, what the range of pay, what the range of opportunity is. But I'm struck by the conversation I had with that person at a cafe in East Boston, and she said, the people I represent make $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 a year. And if you're going to give them a job for $36,000 a year with benefits, I support this project. And I was glad I had that conversation.
Question back here?
Yes.
Back left.
Hi, Jerry Delperti, East Boston, Webster Street. I get up and talk and say that I'd like to thanks Mr. Field for what he's been done for us. Hello?
There you go.
Again, I'd like to thanks Mr. Field for what he did to keep this place open. Just one question. If the track floods, is he going to bring
Well, thank you, Jerry. We hope we don't get there, but we'd also, one of the things we're looking forward to is making improvements to the racetrack, and we're going to have some details on that in early October. Yes.
Over here. In the back.
Angie.
My name is Joe Tedesca. I live up on the hill on Montmorency Ave. And my question is, you're talking about the alternatives. In the event you don't get the gaming license, does the community get to vote on what comes here? And are there any benefits to the community, such as the highway, if you don't get this gaming license?
Well, certainly an alternate development would not be subject to a local referendum, okay? So this is the only development proposal that's going to go to a ballot question in the next 60 days. So clearly you get to vote on this. You don't get to vote on something else. We don't think that an alternate development would have host community agreements with Revere and Boston that would pay them up to $67 million a year. We don't think that an alternate development would pledge and have to be required to spend $45 million on local road and infrastructure improvements. And we're not sure if an alternate development would be able to employ 4,000 people at the facility. And we know an alternate development is not likely to keep the 78-year-old racetrack and all the people that currently work here, which is one of the reasons we're proposing this development. Okay, I'm going to take one or two more, okay? And there's, so Angie, why don't you go, and then we're getting close to our time.
Angie Preston, East Boston. My question is, if East Boston votes against the casino and Revere votes for the casino, will a casino be built? And this is a two-part question. When will we also find out if it's going to be city council is going to make it citywide or not?
Okay, I'll take the answer to the first part is that would be really hard to do, okay, because we're coming up against deadlines. The Gaming Commission would like would like the applications in December. And I've said this before, we're planning for success. We feel really good about the level of support we have in both communities. So, you know, we're planning to be here. The second question about the dates is the city council will be before the two city councils in the next week. It's probably going to take them each a week or two to sort this out. So my guess is maybe by Wednesday, the 18th of September, the two city councils will have ratified the date of November 5th and said, yes, it's okay for you to have your election on November 5th. And at that time, they'll deal with, in Boston, they'll deal with the citywide or ward-only question. It would be really, really, really hard, okay? I mean, if East Boston votes it down, I don't think it gets built in East Boston. But it would be almost impossible for us. But if we have a great deal of support in Revere, I don't think we'd rule out any options. But I think, as I said before, we are absolutely planning on being successful in both communities. And if you vote for us, that's going to help. Okay? All right. I have time for one or two more, and thank you, everybody, for hanging in.
Hi, I'm Laura Reynolds, and I live on Washburn Avenue here. And I haven't really heard much about the improvements to, Winthrop Avenue and Washburn.
Yeah.
You did mention something about the racetrack. Can you expand or give us a sort of a sneak preview of what you're going to do with that?
It's another one that's too easy, but it's the subject of another meeting in 2 or 3 weeks. For those of us for whom racing is near and dear to our hearts, we absolutely look forward to not only preserving the racetrack, but improving it and enhancing the racing experience, attracting a higher quality of stables, having more money for purses, being able to spend some money in that barn area, which was also built in 1935, improve the conditions for the people who work and live here. It's really a big part of the program, and we're going to be talking about that in a few weeks. But as you can tell, I've been thinking about it, and we're very excited about it. As for the improvements along Winthrop Avenue, Gautam and Laura touched on them briefly, but we do have other drawings. We're happy to show you those, and if you'd like to get your neighbors on Washburn Avenue together, we'd be happy to come down and show you what we're planning. Okay? Okay, so two more. This is it. This gentleman and then John Wyatt. Yes.
Okay, my name is Aklog Limana. I live in Bishmont, Bella I love. My question is, what happened with my real estate value, rent, and the insurance associated with vandalism and the crime?
Sure. So we've looked at this around the country, and this is the 39th state to do gaming development. And it's in some cases where they haven't done a really good job, it's a mixed bag. In some cases where they've done a really good job with gaming development and investing in the local community, the real estate values go up, okay? The real estate values improve. And we've looked around at places, and we've looked at Pennsylvania, we've looked at other places where Caesars has facilities, and the key has not been the presence of a gaming facility as much as been investment in the local community. And so in our host community agreements with Revere in East Boston, we wanted to make sure that we did invest in the local community, that we had a commitment to local hiring, not just jobs, but job training programs for local residents, that we made a commitment to buying goods and services locally, so in addition to our business, we can support local businesses, that we had a commitment to beautification programs, and in the case of East Boston, to a business improvement district with the East Boston Chamber and other partners, so that some of the $20 million a year that goes to East Boston from our host community agreement, some of the $15 million a year that goes to Revere gets spent on improving local businesses and streetscapes and business programs and training programs for businesses, so that not only can they do business with us, but they can improve their own businesses. We also have a program called Total Rewards that with our partners at Caesars that we're extending to local businesses as well. So we think by investing in the local community that we can help preserve your real estate values and the neighbors, our neighbors in Orient Heights and everybody around here because of that community investment and investment in public safety, investment in doing this right, okay? And it's one of the reasons we feel so good about those host community agreements. John, I'll let you finish tonight.
Hi, my name is John Wyatt.
Actually, John, I was going to let you finish tonight, but Alice just put her hand up, and so and I've been waiting.
I know Alice.
Yeah. So, all right, John, then Alice, and then we're done.
More or less a comment, Chip, and Joe kind of segued into what I was going to say about. I really wish people would pay more attention to the alternative It just seems like all the negatives are getting, the casino's getting hit with all the negatives. Just what you showed tonight as far as a mall 1.5 times a square one, along with the buildings around the perimeter, with absolutely no highway improvement, like scares the hell out of me. And I really think the residents should take a closer look at the alternative, because it's serious, and I know you guys aren't going to be here if it doesn't go the way, and I pray to God it does.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. Okay, so a lot of pressure, Alice. You're the last one.
No, I'm going to be nice tonight. I'm happy to see that money is designated to East Boston, because for many years now, with the pilot program at Massport, I think the city of Boston got $30 million last year or this year. I don't see a cent of it spent in my neighborhood ever. Okay? So I'm hoping to see some of your money spent on Bennington Street with a nice green strip. And, some benches, trees, and etc. Now, we hear about Noise Park, etc. Now, Pierce Park and the Green Strip in East Boston, they're not maintained by the city of Boston because, unfortunately, they don't do the job that Massport does. I was on the Pierce Park committee, and we insisted that Massport be the maintenance director of Pierce Park and also the Green Strip, and they're also in charge of security. So I hear talk about Noise Park. Once you fix up Noise Park and you put this Green Strip in front of my house, are you going to maintain them? Because you do an excellent job at landscaping, and I'd like to see you, what you plant, I'd like to see you take care of. And it also means employment for a few people. If Massport can do it, you can do it.
Okay. If the city will let us maintain the plantings on Bennington Street, you have my personal assurance we'll do it.
I don't mean those little caskets with the flowers in them.
You want it better.
I mean you rip it all up and you put in a true green strip.
Richard, Alice, okay. Christopher, Alice, Richard Fields. I think you have support there. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.